the purpose of this video is going to be to show our customers how to replace the gear train inside of a Gould valve. What I'm showing here is the side view of it to help identify it. All of these valves are 5-port valves, which you can see on the bottom here. So the first step in doing this is to remove the band clamp, which I've already loosened to kind of speed things up here. So you remove this band clamp. Now obviously this would have plumbing on it, which you'll have to address, but we're just trying to show the simple process of replacing the internals. So you would pull off the top, set it aside, pull off the impeller, the gear assembly. On top of each one of these piston assemblies is a small valve, a small ball. So you remove the ball and the piston assembly. Put this over here so I don't lose them all. And what you're left with is the bare housing, which would, these shims will be the first thing we replace. So as you can see, there's 3 shims. Now that you have the empty housing, you can start reassembling the valve. So you'll take these shims, place them over the center shaft, like that. Then what you'll do is the next thing is you'll line up your pistons. It has a Santoprene piece on the bottom that can move in and out that opens and closes the valve. This square piece here you want to point on the inside so that it's facing the center shaft. And there's little recesses in the bottom here that these legs will drop into. So make sure those are fully seated in there. Like that. The next step is to reinstall the small glass or acrylic balls. They go into a little chamfered seat here. So you have all 5 in place. Then you'll take your gear assembly. When you get this from the factory, it'll be wrapped in a small rubber band to keep these gears from coming off. And drop that down over the center shaft. This is probably the trickiest part of this whole piece, is making sure that, let me show it, the underside of this has a small cam surface. This whole cam surface needs to sit down on the inside of these balls. So what I do is I kind of push with a little bit of down pressure. Here, it snapped down in there. So that should turn and you should see those balls being lifted up out of their seats to know that it's properly in place. Your impeller then drops over the center shaft. I always give it a spin, a couple spins, just to make sure everything's turning freely and make sure that the gear train's turning under the impeller. In the underside of the upper housing, there's a little cone that corresponds to this cone on the impeller, and these 5 pins correspond to these 5 discs on the top of the pistons. If you feel around the edge of your upper housing, you'll see there's a small nub, which probably won't show up in this video, that's there. That corresponds with this hole right here. And what that does is it aligns these 4 pins up with those points on top of the piston that I discussed earlier. So this will drop down on there. And as you're putting it down on, you want to make sure that you kind of give it a turn to let those, the gears from the gear train go into this planetary gear up here. So sometimes takes a little bit of finessing to get it in there. And it's not wanting to go in. What am I doing here? There we go. Then I turn it until you feel that the male nub on the upper housing drop into the female slot in the bottom. Reinstall your trusty band clamp. And make sure that it's lined up with the outside of the housing before you give it a final snug down. And tighten that guy down. So that completes the disassembly and reassembly of a Gould valve for replacement of the internals of an inoperable valve. For additional educational videos about A&A products, please visit our website at www.aanawateracctuatedvalve.com. www.aamfg.com and follow the link to our YouTube page.